Now let's talk about stereotypes, similarities and differences, and classification. Gender stereotypes are just our general impressions and beliefs about females and males. These are ideas that we get into our head that all females are one way or all males are a particular way. You might have, for example, a situation where maybe there's a baby and someone doesn't know what to do with it and they hand it to the nearest woman and she's like, what, what am I to do? Why are you handing me this baby? What am I supposed to do with this? And they're like, well, you're a woman. Aren't you like nurturing or whatever? Not necessarily. Okay. There's nothing that automatically means that a woman is going to be better than a man with a baby. Another hypothetical scenario, there's a spider and a woman tells the guy, go kill it. Well, I don't know. The guy might be just as freaked out by spiders as you are. We make assumptions. We often make assumptions about people based on whether they're male or female, and these are based in gender stereotypes. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not true for some people, but it's certainly not the case that all men or all women are a certain way. Okay, we're going to talk about some similarities and differences, but before I go into some of these similarities and differences, I want to point out that when we talk about these differences, it's not like all men are this way or all women are this other way. These can be very, very slight differences. So, if we talk about, for example, men having better visual spatial skills than women, if you look at charts like this one, you can see that, yes, on average, men perform better than women. That doesn't mean that the difference in performance is large or that all men outperform all women or vice versa. Overall, men and women are far more similar than we are different. So these gender differences that we're talking about are going to be averages, and it doesn't mean that all of one gender is better or worse at something than all people of another gender. So even when gender differences occur, there's often considerable overlap between males and females. Any differences we do see may be due to biological factors, sociocultural factors, or both. Okay, let's start with some physical differences. First of all, women have more body fat than men, and men on average are about 10% taller than women. Women have a longer life expectancy, are less likely to develop disorders, and are more resistant to infection, and they have more elastic blood vessels. Males have higher levels of stress hormones, which cause faster clotting and high blood pressure, which is one of the reasons why men are at greater risk for heart attack. There are areas of the parietal lobe that functions in visual spatial skills that tends to be larger in men. There are areas of the brain involved in emotional processing that tend to show more metabolic activity in women. Some cognitive similarities and differences. In general, no differences have been found overall in overall intellectual ability, but we do see some differences in cognitive areas. As I've mentioned in previous examples, boys have better visual spatial skills than girls. There are actually no differences in math scores based just on gender. Once you take into account other factors that might affect an individual, you actually don't see differences in math scores. However, girls have more negative math attitudes, and adults' expectations tend to be biased in favor of boys when it comes to math. Girls tend to score higher in reading and writing, and they tend to complete high school at a higher rate. But of course, these things may reflect non-cognitive factors like social issues and whatnot. Speaking of social issues, and again, this is all on average, so this is not saying all men or all women. Boys are more physically aggressive compared to girls, and girls are more verbally and relationally aggressive compared to boys. So, for example, if a boy is bullying another boy, he's more likely to push him or otherwise physically intimidate him compared to a girl. Whereas a girl bullying another girl is more likely to start a vicious rumor about her. On average, boys show less self regulation than girls. Any differences, any gender differences in children's emotional expression is very small. So, in general, when we're kids, there isn't much, if any, difference between boys and girls in how much they express emotion, how much they talk about themselves, or how much they assert themselves. Any gender based differences in those things tends to develop later on, and we'll talk about that. Then there's classification of gender. Historically, we've tended to gravitate towards a dichotomy of masculine and feminine, but there's more than just girly girls and macho men. There are ways to identify beyond that. So, more and more, we have this idea of androgyny, the presence of both positive masculine and feminine characteristics in the same person. A man can be strong and brave and also nurturing. A woman can be nurturing and kind and also assertive and ambitious. So it's not like you have to be all one way or another. People can have both masculine and feminine characteristics, and this is a positive thing. When we say transgender, we're referring to individuals who adopt a gender identity that differs from the one they were assigned at birth. Some argue that trans is a better umbrella term for a variety of gender identities and expressions, so just trans. And if you've heard the term cisgender, that just refers to someone whose gender identity and expression corresponds with the gender identity assigned at birth. So if you were assigned as a male at birth and you feel like a male and you identify and express yourself as a male, that would be cisgender. We are starting to go beyond gender as a binary construct. The long existing concept of gender as having just two categories, either male or female, is starting to be challenged. Neuroscience research has indicated that we have more of a gender mosaic than his and hers brains that are very different. It's not like girl brains are exactly like this and boy brains are exactly that way. We all have this tapestry of our minds. Endocrinology research reveals more hormonal similarities in males and females than was previously envisioned. Recent conceptual changes go far beyond characterizing individuals as masculine or feminine, including new categories such as transgender, cisgender, and others. And developmental research indicates that culture strongly influences the tendency to view gender as binary. If you just let people be, we find that gender categories are much more fluid.